It's the 5 most fascinating people in Swift Current. Proudly sponsored by the Swift Current Mall, the Center at 1 and 4, Moose World Inc., the Lyric Theatre, Swift Current's home for the performing arts, the Prairie Post, Prairie Life, Prairie People, and by Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you.
Swift Current Mall is a proud partner of this program, which showcases 5 fascinating individuals. These individuals have made Swift Current their home, and they've made major contributions towards the community.
In today's spotlight, Anika Henderson, whose welcoming attitude, warmth, and dedication has made Swift Current the place to be for all newcomers. Born in Peace River, Alberta, Anika Henderson is no stranger herself to the unsettling feeling that comes from being a newcomer. As a child, Anika found herself often relocating to various communities in Alberta due to her father's job, and therefore ensuring that even at a young age, Henderson understood what it was like to be the newest person in a community. Returning to the Swift Current area where both her parents had been raised, Anika went to school first in Wymark and then in Swift Current at the Comprehensive High School. She then headed back to Alberta to pursue a degree in sociology and women's study, and a master's degree in sociology at the University of Alberta. Throughout her education, Anika continued to travel and to seek new adventures before moving to Australia, where she remained for 3.5 years.
I guess I went to Australia right after I finished grad school, and so I was really poor and broke, and so I worked a whole bunch of really terrible jobs just to make a little bit of money, because I had my eye on this volunteer position. I wanted to do a human rights internship for 6 months, but of course it was unpaid, so I had to sort of plan ahead a little bit. So I worked on the cotton harvest and on the grain harvest and kind of made my way up and down from north to south in Australia, doing the most horrible work you can imagine. I guess after that, then I got a job, or I applied to do this human rights internship at a place called the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, and that's a place that works with people who come to Australia undocumented and then seek asylum. So a lot of the people that were coming there were arrived by boat or by whatever other means, and in Australia they happen to have these really crazy policies where people were locked up indefinitely if they arrived undocumented. So I was working with people who were coming out of long-term detention. So some of the people had been in these detention centers out in the outback for up to 7 years and were coming out pretty damaged. And after that I worked with a program called the Refugee Minor Program, and that was working with kids who came to Australia as refugees but didn't have any parents. So most were orphaned or whatnot, and yeah, that was the rest of my job there.
While Anika loved the work she was doing, after 11 years of absence, she found herself missing her family. And on a planned visit back home for her brother's wedding, found herself searching the internet at 2 in the morning, looking without actually meaning to, for something that could bring her back home.
I just was sitting at home one night and I was cruising around on the internet and managed to find my way to the Great Plains College website. And I saw that there was this job opportunity for an immigrant settlement coordinator, and I couldn't believe it, because I grew up here and it was sort of a place that people used to move away from, you know, not people that, or I guess people didn't always move into this area, so I was kind of surprised to see that there was a lot of immigration happening in this region. So I put in an application and then went back to Australia, and anyway I ended up getting the job, so that's how I ended up back here. I was kind of looking for an excuse to come back home, but never really imagined that I'd have the opportunity to do something I love and be in my hometown as well.
As the Immigrant Settlement and Integration Services Coordinator for Great Plains College, Anika uses the wealth of experience she's accumulated through her education and her travels to help newcomers to Swift Current who might be feeling a little out of place, a feeling she herself has experienced firsthand.
I guess what my experience brought to this position is, one, I've experienced being an immigrant myself. I went through the whole immigration process to be in Australia, from being a temporary resident all the way through to getting my permanent residence over there. So I can understand, I guess, a little bit about what it's like to be somewhere new and to be kind of the outsider, I suppose, or the newcomer. I think my challenges were a little bit less because the language is the same in Australia, although with some Australian accents you wouldn't know it's the same language. And also because my qualifications were recognized over there. So I think there's a certain amount that I can relate to, and then there's a lot of parts about my experience that were probably a lot different and maybe a lot easier, I guess, than what some of the folks that come here face.
With the memory of her time at the Asylum Seeker Resource Center still fresh in her mind, Anika wanted to create a similar center for newcomers right here in Swift Current, with a vision for a bright, colorful, welcoming space where people could drop in, access the services they needed, and feel welcome. Anika, with the help of college president Mark Friesen, set out to acquire necessary funding through a grant provided by the Community Initiatives Fund.
I remember getting the acceptance letter with a check attached and just running down the hallway. I was so excited about it. And then it all just sort of happened, just fell into place after that. We found this perfect spot for it. Did a lot of painting to sort of get it up to snuff, and here we are.
Moving into their new location in downtown Swift Current in September of 2008, the center was now up and running and hosted its official grand opening in May of 2009. An afternoon filled of cultural song and dance, and dignitaries on hand from all levels of government who came to celebrate the success of the Newcomer Welcome Center and its achievements in making Swift Current's newest citizens feel right at home. A success further celebrated when it was announced that Swift Current now ranked after Regina and Saskatoon as the third most popular destination for new immigrants to Saskatchewan.
I think it's satisfying as well because I just see that this community is becoming so much richer with all of the new folks that are coming here, and so it's nice to feel a little bit a part of that and a little bit a part of making this community a kind of a better, richer place to live.
The Newcomer Welcome Center, thanks to Anika's enthusiasm, energy, and vision, has become the nucleus of a more culturally enriched Swift Current that is now emerging. Where once it was thought the center would only benefit immigrants to Canada, word of the services available have now begun to draw in all newcomers to the city, whether they have moved across national, provincial, or municipal jurisdictions. A success that many attribute to Anika herself, with her friendly smile and inclusive attitude that make all who meet her feel the warmth of her caring and generosity. As for Anika herself, she says her own days of moving on are now behind her, and that she prefers to help newcomers rather than be one herself.
I guess the thing that's been interesting to me about moving back here is probably ever since I left Swift Current, I was always looking for my next move. I was always planning ahead. No matter if I loved what I was doing at the moment, I was always kind of looking for my next move. And I think the neat thing is that I got back here, I've been doing this job, and I haven't really, it hasn't even really crossed my mind to look for anything else because I'm really happy with where I am and what I'm doing. And I love being back in Swift Current. I love being close to family. I love my job. I've got a nice little life here.
Anika Henderson, one of the 5 most fascinating people in Swift Current.